All right, let's take a deep dive into Gorilla Technology Group. Ticker symbol GRRR for those following along on the market.
Yeah, GRRR.
We've got a ton of research here, and we really want to boil it down to the most important parts so that by the end of this deep dive, you can decide for yourself if this company might be a good fit for your portfolio.
Sounds good.
We'll focus on understanding Gorilla's business model, their management, and take a close look at their financials.
All right.
So let's jump right in. What stands out to you?
Well, the first thing I noticed is that Gorilla Technology has been around for a while. I mean, they were founded way back in 2001
Oh, wow. Okay.
in Taipei, Taiwan. So they've got over 20 years of experience in the AI field.
Okay, so they're not some new startup.
Right. And they specialize in AI-driven solutions for the Industrial Internet of Things, or IIoT.
Okay, for those of us who don't speak fluent tech, what does that even mean? What's the IIoT?
Yeah, so think of it as connecting all the machines and devices in industries like manufacturing, transportation, energy. They're all talking to each other and sharing data over the internet.
Ah, so like smart factories and stuff like that.
Exactly. Smart cities, ports, all sorts of applications. And Gorilla's AI helps make these systems smarter and more efficient.
Cool. So where does Gorilla really focus their efforts within that IoT world?
Well, they've got a strong focus on security. Like, how do you keep these complex systems safe from cyber attacks and physical threats?
Okay, so they're kind of like the guardians of the smart city.
Yeah, you could say that. They call it security convergence, which basically means blending physical security like cameras and sensors with cybersecurity measures.
Interesting. And they're not just working in Taiwan, right? I mean, they're doing this globally.
Yeah, they've got a global reach, working with both public and private sector clients all over the world. So they're not just a local player.
Okay, so we've got this company with a long history in AI. They're focusing on securing the IIoT, and they're operating globally. That paints a pretty interesting picture. But what about the people running the show? Who's leading Gorilla Technology?
Well, the chairman and CEO is Jay Chandan.
Okay.
And he actually gave a really insightful interview with NASDAQ recently where he talked about their strategic vision.
Oh, interesting. What were some of the highlights that stood out to you?
Well, he emphasized their focus on smart cities, which obviously aligns with their core technology.
Yeah.
But he also stressed the importance of security and sustainability, all underpinned by AI, of course.
Okay, so there's a clear direction there. Anything else about their approach that caught your eye?
You know, what I found really interesting was their emphasis on a consultative approach. They don't just throw generic solutions at their clients.
Right.
They actually take the time to really understand their clients' needs, and then they tailor their AI technology to create very specific solutions.
Ah, so it's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of approach.
Right, exactly.
Smart. So we've talked about their history, their focus, their leadership. But let's get down to brass tacks here. How are their financials looking?
Well, they've been doing remarkably well, especially in 2023. Their revenue grew by a staggering 188.7%.
Whoa. Hold on. Almost triple their revenue? That's impressive.
Yeah, it definitely caught my attention.
But fast growth doesn't always tell the whole story. What about their actual profitability? Are they just burning through cash to get those revenue numbers up?
That's a good question. And actually, their gross profit margin has also been improving steadily, which tells me they're not just growing, but growing sustainably.
Okay, so they're making money and keeping more of it. That's a good sign.
Absolutely.
What other financial indicators should we be keeping an eye on?
Well, their debt-to-equity ratio is a pretty healthy 48.7%, which means they're not over-leveraged. And their interest coverage ratio is a whopping 326.1x.
Wow, 326.1x. That sounds like a lot.
It is. Basically, they're generating way more than enough earnings to cover their interest expenses.
Okay, so they're financially solid.
It seems that way.
All right, so we've got a company with a solid history, a strong focus, good leadership, and healthy financials. This is promising so far. But how is the market reacting to all of this? Is there positive sentiment around Gorilla Technology? We'll dig into that and more when we return. So how's the market feeling about Gorilla Technology? Are investors excited about what they're seeing?
Yeah, the market sentiment seems pretty positive overall. I mean, their stock price has had a pretty amazing run.
Really?
They hit a 52-week high of $34.41.
Whoa. Okay.
Compared to a low of, get this, $2.99.
That's quite a difference. So what's driving that kind of enthusiasm?
Well, their strong financial performance is definitely playing a role. Investors like to see those kinds of numbers we were talking about earlier.
Makes sense.
But it's not just about the past, you know? It's about future potential.
Right.
And Gorilla's got a pretty strong backlog of projects, which means there's high demand for their solutions right now.
Okay, so they're not just sitting around waiting for work. They've got stuff lined up.
Right. And their pipeline of potential multi-year opportunities, like the big projects that can really make a difference, is growing too.
Ah, so they're set up for sustained growth.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, so investors are looking ahead. What are the experts saying? Are the analysts bullish on Gorilla's future?
Yeah, generally, yeah. The price target range they've set for GRR stock is between $27 and $35.
Okay.
So that's pretty positive, I'd say.
Yeah, it seems like the market's pretty confident about Gorilla Technology. Okay, so strong financials, positive outlook, lots of potential. But let's talk about something a little different. What's their ownership structure like? Anything noteworthy there?
Actually, yeah, their ownership structure is a bit interesting.
Okay, how so?
Well, institutional ownership is relatively low.
Like the big investment firms.
Right, those guys. They only own about 2.87% of the company.
Okay.
And insider ownership, so that's the folks who work at the company, isn't much higher either, around 6.08%.
So does that mean, like, that they don't have faith in the company or something?
Not necessarily, no. It's just something to note. Sometimes lower institutional ownership can mean a stock is a bit more volatile.
Ah, so it could bounce around more.
Yeah, it could be more sensitive to, how regular investors are feeling. We also need to look at the short interest.
Okay, refresh my memory. What's short interest again?
So short interest is basically the percentage of a company's shares that investors have borrowed to sell.
Because they think the price is going to go down.
Right. They're betting that the stock will drop and they'll be able to buy it back cheaper later and make a profit.
Got it. So what's Gorilla's short interest looking like?
Right now, it's sitting at 7.53%.
Okay. Is that a lot?
It's not crazy high, but it does suggest that some investors aren't so optimistic. They're betting against the company.
All right, so even with all the good signs, there are some folks out there who aren't convinced. That makes a good risk assessment even more important, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. A good SWOT analysis can really help us understand where Gorilla stands.
Right, looking at their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the strengths. What's working in Gorilla's favor?
Well, first off, they're in a good spot. The AI video surveillance market is growing really fast.
Okay.
And their solutions are pretty cutting edge, so they're well positioned to take advantage of that growth.
Makes sense. What else?
Well, they've got an experienced management team led by Jay Chandan, who we talked about earlier.
Right.
He seems to really know what he's doing. Plus, their backlog and pipeline of projects are very healthy, so that's a big plus. And they seem committed to keeping their shareholders happy.
Like with those share buyback programs we saw.
Exactly. That's a good sign.
All right, so lots of strengths there. But every company has weaknesses, right? What are some things potential investors should be aware of with Gorilla?
One thing I noticed is that there's not a lot of information out there about their capital allocation strategy.
So how they're spending their money?
Yeah. A little more transparency there would be nice for investors.
Makes sense. Anything else?
Well, the relatively low institutional ownership we talked about earlier could lead to some volatility in the stock price. That's something to keep in mind.
Okay, so transparency and stability are areas to watch. Now, let's flip it around. What are some opportunities Gorilla can capitalize on? Where can they really excel?
The Asia-Pacific region is a huge opportunity.
Okay.
The economies there are growing like crazy, and there's a lot of demand for new technologies, especially AI.
And Gorilla already has a presence there, right?
Yeah, but they can definitely expand their reach even further.
So tapping into those booming markets could be a big win.
Absolutely. And of course, constantly innovating is key.
Yeah, they got to stay ahead of the game.
Right. Develop new AI solutions, partner with industry leaders like Intel, that kind of stuff.
Makes sense. Strategic alliances can be really powerful. Okay, last but not least, the threats. What are the potential roadblocks Gorilla might face?
Well, competition is fierce in this market.
Yeah, I imagine.
They're up against some big established players like Hikvision and Dahua Technology.
Okay, so they got to fight for market share.
Right. And then there's the constant pressure to innovate. If they fall behind on the technology front, they could lose their edge pretty quickly.
Okay, so keeping that R&D engine running is crucial.
Yeah. And then, there are always concerns about data privacy and security when you're talking about AI surveillance.
Right, especially with all the regulations and public scrutiny.
Exactly. They'll need to navigate that carefully.
All right, so we've got the good and the bad, the opportunities and the challenges. All things considered, is Gorilla Technology a company you'd recommend investors take a closer look at?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Based on everything we've discussed, would you say guerrilla technology is a buy?
It's tough to give a simple yes or no answer. They've got a lot going for them.
Yeah.
They're in a hot market.
Huh.
They've got innovative tech, and they've been knocking it out of the park financially.
But like we talked about, there are some risks, too.
Right, the competition, the need to keep innovating, that whole data privacy thing.
Exactly. So I'd say it's a potential opportunity, but it's not without its challenges.
Okay, so it's not a slam dunk.
Right.
What would you say to someone who's thinking about investing in guerrilla technology?
Do your homework. Don't just take our word for it.
Right. Always good advice.
Dig deeper, look at their financials, read analyst reports, really understand the risks involved.
Yeah, and think about how it fits into your overall investment strategy.
Absolutely. Investing is always a personal decision.
Okay, so that's guerrilla technology. Lots to consider, lots of potential, but some things to watch out for, too.
Yeah, pretty much sums it up.
Now, remember how I mentioned an intriguing question at the beginning?
Oh, yeah, the one about smart cities.
That's the one.
Mm-hmm.
So we know guerrilla is all about security convergence, using AI to make those smart cities safer. But here's the question. Could they become a major player in shaping the future of smart cities as a whole? I mean, as AI gets more and more integrated into how our cities work, could guerrilla be the company that defines how we live and interact in those cities?
That's a good question. I mean, it's still early days for smart cities, right?
Yeah.
But Gorilla's definitely in a good position. They've got the technology, they've got the experience. It'll be interesting to see how things unfold.
Exactly. And maybe some of our listeners have thoughts on this.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you've got any insights on guerrilla technology or any other companies you think might shape the future of smart cities, drop your comments below. We'd love to hear what you think.
And for more deep dives like this one, make sure you subscribe to the Stock Analytics AI YouTube channel. We're always exploring interesting companies and market trends.
That's right. We've got a ton of great content to help you make smarter investment decisions. But before we go, got to get the disclaimer out of the way.
The legal stuff.
All the information we've shared today is for educational purposes only.
Not financial advice.
We are not telling you to buy or sell any specific stocks.
Do your own research. Talk to a financial advisor.
Yeah, always be smart about investing. All right, that wraps up our deep dive into Guerrilla Technology Group. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Until next time.